Hello and welcome to CCA Code Academy. I'm Mitchell, and this is the beginning of a series where I will teach you how to program in C++. There is zero programming knowledge assumed. If you do know how to program in another language, that's great. That will definitely help, though I do recommend that you go through all the videos just to make sure that you don't miss out on anything, as there are, quite a bit of differences between C++ and other languages. So, like I said, there's no programming knowledge assumed. If you've never written a Hello World program in your life, that's totally cool, totally fine. We'll go through all that. One disclaimer that I do have is that there is a little bit of assumed knowledge as far as being tech savvy on a computer. So you should at least know the basics of how computers work. So, for example, the hard drive or the storage of a computer, you should know the difference between that and memory. You should know what a CPU is, what it does, and just at a very basic level, you should just know how a computer kind of functions. So getting right into it, what is a programming language? What is C++? Why do we need them? Well, computers only understand one thing. They only understand machine code, which is basically zeros and ones. Or really, if you want to get technical, it's really just either the presence or the absence of electricity. That's all a computer understands. It just does math with numbers, zeros and ones. And so if you wanted to write a program, or if you wanted to tell a computer to do something, you could, in theory, just, write a bunch of zeros and ones, basically give that to the computer, and it would do it. It would do what you told it to do by reading those zeros and ones. But that's extremely error prone, that's very tedious, and it would be extremely difficult to actually get any real tangible work done by writing in zeros and ones. So what computer scientists have done is created these higher level languages, such as C++, Java, C#, Perl, Lua, Python, Golang, all these different languages. And the idea is that the programmer can write human readable code, things that actually look like the English language, actual words, and they'll basically give it to a compiler or an interpreter, depending on the language. And that compiler or interpreter will take that human readable code and it will actually translate it into zeros and ones so that the computer can understand it and use it to do things. So in order to do that, you're basically going to either need an IDE or you'll need basically a text editor and a compiler in order to write and run your programs. If you don't already have your programming environment set up, then I do have a few other videos that you can use to do that. So if you want to program in CodeBlocks on Linux or Windows or OS X, then I have a video to show you how to do that. If you want to use if you're in Windows, you can use Visual Studio. If you're in OS X, you can use XCode. But you basically just want to have a programming environment that you can use to write your C++ programs and then compile them and run them. I will also be essentially teaching out of this book, is what I'll call it. There's basically this tutorial on C++.com, and it goes through all the basics of the C++ language. So I'll be following the structure of this tutorial very closely and treating it as essentially like a book for this course. If you want a PDF version of this book as opposed to this web version, then you can also, C++.com also has that. It's a little bit of an older version. This was last updated in 2007. So I'm assuming that this uses the C++ 1998 standard versus this web version uses the C++ 11 standard. I'll technically be teaching from the C++ 2011 standard. But whether you want to program in the 2011 standard and 2014, 1998, there's very few differences that matter at this level. That's really out of the scope of this. And so no matter which version you're learning in, you can really use this video, even though I'll technically be teaching in C++ version 11. You'll see that we have all these different sections. At the end of each section, I'll have, some questions, some things to check for understanding might, give you a little problem that you'll have to write a little snippet of code to do. As well as at the end of each of these really large sections, really large chapters essentially, then I'll actually give you a programming project or maybe multiple programming projects for you to go out there and apply what you've learned. It's great to be able to, follow through these lectures and, look at the code that I show you and, type that code in, see what it does. But you're never going to learn to program by just watching someone else program and have someone else tell you how to program. You actually do need to get your hands dirty and write some code. So I'll be creating those little projects in order to help you learn. So if you ever have any questions, comments, leave them in the comments below the video, and I'll do my best to get back to those questions as soon as possible. You can also email me directly. There's a link to my email in the description of this video, and I'll respond to you directly. Though I do recommend doing it in the comments of the video, not because I don't want to be answering all these emails. That's great. I'd love doing that. But really just so that other people can see your questions. If you have a question, then it's very conceivable that somebody else would have the same question. And so, that'll be useful to them. If I do get, the same kind of questions over and over, then, I'll create little side videos that address some, frequently asked questions and that sort of thing. So without further ado, you can hop on over to the next video in this series, and we'll actually get our hands dirty. I'll actually be going through the classic Hello World program. I'll show you, line by line, command, how that program works, and we'll run it, and you'll actually get to run your first C++ program. If you don't have your development environment set up yet, hop over to one of those videos, get it set up, and then come on back to this series, and we'll learn how to program in C++. So until next time, thank you, and have fun coding.